morning. Welcome to Daily Confession with Carter and Keri on Unsafe Space. Today is Thursday, October 17th. And if you're new to the channel, we hope that you will watch to the end and leave a comment if you like it or don't like it or disagree or agree with something, and like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. How are you, Carter?
I'm well. I'm, I don't know, not dealing with as much drama as you, but I'm doing well.
You guys, Carter, before the show, sometimes Carter functions as my unpaid therapist.
Yeah. I don't know why that is. I think it's because I'm not very, I don't think I let you get away with a lot of, I just kind of.
I love that. You are like the bad parent, not the bad parent, the bad cop. You're like the boot camp person who's just like, no, this is the way it is, right? Like, and
my advice was like, you already screwed up, dude. You made your bed, lay in it.
Carter's like, well, you're not going to want to hear this advice, but you need a time machine to go back in time.
Yeah. I won't share your story, but I will share what it reminded me of, because it's people, I don't know. I do hear parents sometimes that are like, they'll have like a 12-year-old and they'll be like, my 12-year-old is, they're spoiled and they're this and they're not. Like, how do I stop them from behaving in these ways? And that question to me is just, it's just a tragic question, because the answer is like, get in a time machine, go back 12 years, don't raise a spoiled brat. You f***ed up. It's too late. It's too late. This is what you did. It's too late. So.
I honestly though, I would love, I used to have a therapist who, it took me a while to find one I liked who helped with things that I needed. But even then, she's just like coddling me, and not like you. I would love to have had a therapist like you.
I think it's because most therapists are worried that you're going to get pissed off and stop paying them, like leave. Like, my therapist said I was wrong. Like, they said it was my fault. I'm like, well, sometimes it's your fault.
Sometimes it's your fault. Yes.
So, it's just the way it is. Keri,
okay.
I guess you pointed out to me that we missed something yesterday.
Oh yeah, we didn't acknowledge Pronouns Day. This is a thing now? Pronouns Day? Give me a break. This is, it's totally made up. It's like, it's worse than Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day was made up, right? By the card.
Valentine's Day was made up by people seeking profit. This is made up by people just wanting to literally destroy Western civilization. So.
People seeking power.
Yeah. So this is here. I'll just so you know, it's a real thing. This is from pronounsday.org. You too can go. This says it's October 21st next year. I guess this year it was the 16th. But International Pronouns Day seeks to make respecting, sharing, and educating about personal pronouns commonplace. Referring to people by the pronouns they determine for themselves is basic to human dignity. Being referred to by the wrong pronouns particularly affects transgender and gender nonconforming people. Together, we can transform society to celebrate people's multiple, buzzword Keri, intersecting identities.
And buzzword identities. That's another, yeah.
Yeah, and buzzword identities. So, did you get to see the video?
No, please play it. Is this the one with Chris Cuomo?
No.
Oh.
It's here, Pronouns Day.
Oh my goodness.
My pronoun, this person, I wouldn't know what to guess, so I'm glad this person's telling me it's he, him. Okay, here we go.
My pronouns are he and him.
My pronouns are he, him, they, them.
What's the he, him, they, them, by the way? What is that? Do you know?
Oh my God. That's a person who can't make up their mind if they want to be called he, him, or they, them. I guess it depends on the day.
Maybe he has multiple personality disorder.
Use he, they pronouns.
My pronouns are he, him.
Pronouns are words in which we use to define ourselves, usually based upon like what gender identity you have. A pronoun is what you identify.
Can you pause it for a second?
Pronoun is whatever.
Gladly.
Did that girl say that her pronouns are he, them?
Yes.
So she wants to be called he if you're saying like she went to the store, so he went to the store. But if you want to say that you gave something to her, you have to say I gave it to them.
Right.
not him. But he's cool, but not him.
Right.
He's cool, but not him.
No, he's cool, but not them.
No, he's cool, but them. It's like, why would you have a problem with him, but not he?
Right. My pronouns are he and she. He and her. I don't know. Yeah, he and her.
Like, I really don't want to be called him, but he's cool.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. I mean, there's not. I don't know. We don't have to watch this whole video. A pronoun is what you identify as personally. A pronoun is whatever it means to you, because words have no meaning.
It means to you. It's not someone else's choice.
I'm just, unless someone else is speaking it, in which case it's completely their choice.
It's totally their choice. You don't control the words that come out of my mouth. That's what they have a problem with. They want to control the words that come out of your mouth. This isn't about trans people. This is about authoritarians wanting power and control over your thoughts, your language. This is about attempting to compel you to say what they want you to say. And that's why I have a problem with it. As you know, we've talked about this before, but anyone new to the show, my personal position on this, and I encourage everyone to, think about, well, what do I really think about this? I've thought about it. I don't mind using someone's preferred pronouns if I feel like they're asking me in good faith and I like the person and they're not doing it to try and exert control over me. It really is just like, they're trans and this is, and they identify as, and they like Blair White. I would never call Blair he. Of course Blair's she, right?
Mm-hmm.
But my other thing is that I won't use fake made up words, and I won't use they, them. I won't use the plural to refer to you, and I will not use Z and Zim and Zerder and whatever. I will do, like, I'm going to speak English, and you're not going to exert that type, because the people who are asking to be called made up words, those people are all, for the most part, I'm speaking generalities, I believe they're more concerned with power than they are with actually having some gender confusion.
Yeah, no, there's no question. So, I mean, we don't need to play the rest of this video, but it's these kids basically explaining why it's important to use their pronouns. But even before we get to the power part, there's something that bothered me about this, and I was trying to think about what it is, Keri. And here's my problem with this video, International Pronouns Day, the way this is all talked about generally. This is presented as a polite suggestion. The video plays on your empathy. It asks for what seems to be reasonableness. They play victim, like it hurts when people use the wrong pronoun and blah, blah, blah. And it's presented as this polite suggestion, like, would you please use, we're just, have some empathy, use the right pronouns, it hurts. It's a polite suggestion. But the suggestion is a facade. It is not a suggestion. It is a demand. Because if you don't take the suggestion, the scar-faced guy with the car battery and the pair of pliers comes in to extract the right language from you. The mob will, look at what the social justice mob does to people. It tries to ruin their reputation. It gets them kicked off of social media. It tries to ruin their means of income. It tries to go after their family. Sometimes if it's Antifa, it even gets violent with people. So one of the things that really bugs me about this is I think it's sadistic to pretend that you're politely asking for a suggestion when really you're the mob and you're going to break my legs if I don't take your suggestion. It's a hiding of the naked animosity and force that they're willing to use. They are authoritarians, and it's pretending that they're not. It's a veneer that really disgusts me. That's the first thing that I just don't like about this.
That they are tyrants and they're disguising. Well, this is a great example of what SJW ideology is in general. These are people who are concerned with power and control. They are authoritarians, but they cloak it in this benevolent, like, oh, why can't you be nice? And it's like, no, because like you said, you were standing there waiting to break my legs if I don't comply with you.
Right? That's why I don't want to comply. I don't want to comply because it's not a suggestion. Back when it was a suggestion, I was mostly okay with it. Now I don't want to comply because you're asking me, right? And so it's similar to, like, we read 1984. It's all about power. They want to get you to say 2 + 2 is 5, not because they care whether you believe 2 + 2 is 5 tomorrow, or that they want to function off of 2 + 2 is 5. They want you to believe it now. They want you to say it and believe it now because they say so. That's all. If they change tomorrow what the right pronouns are or the right way to treat trans people, they will be just as authoritarian about changing to the new language.
Oh yeah.
They just want to show that they can control you.
That they can control you. And this is just the first step. Once they, and once they've codified it into law, which they've done in Canada and they're trying to do here in certain states, they've done in California to a certain degree, they've done it in New York City to a certain degree. But once they have that precedent, it's like game on. Like this is about control way beyond the trans issue.
Yes.
It's about controlling what you're allowed to think and speak.
Yeah.
I want to read something. This is our friend Mike Harlow, who's been on the show several times. And if you guys aren't following him, you should check him out on YouTube. I'm just going to read what he posted because I thought this was so perfect and succinct.
Yep.
He says, a word about International Pronouns Day, gag. The whole pronouns thing is actually very derogatory and disrespectful to real transgender people. It singles them out and separates them as an other. I view transgender people the same as any other man or woman. Factually speaking, I understand we have a biological difference, but the difference doesn't really matter to me. It would be unfathomable for me to go up to a trans person and say, what are your pronouns? Because that tells them that they are not like us, that they are some weird other, that is not treating them the same as everyone else. This is not inclusion, it is separation. I can't imagine any trans person would want this. But this isn't about transgender people. It is about the hostile takeover of the LGBT community by radical non-binary gender ideologues. It is about social engineering. It is about exerting more control over an increasingly malleable public. If you can bully someone through fear and social pressure into accepting unlimited genders and pronouns, what can you not bully them into accepting? About 0.3% to 0.6% of the population is transgender. And by the way, those numbers, he's being generous. He's taking the high number that they
Yes,
it's
actually I 0.2 as the intersex number, but
and not intersex. He's talking about transgender, not intersex.
Well, yeah, the problem is transgender is defined by who says they're transgender. So
right. So it can, and right now it's a trend. So anyway, the point is he's being generous and taking the high number that they use, which is, I don't believe it is 0.6. Anyway, of the population is transgender. The vast majority of whom just want to be seen and treated as any other man or woman. Non-binaries cannot account for more than 0.1% at the absolute most. Yet we must alter the English language and toss out grammar just to appease less than 0.1% of radicals. Like that to me, I'm sorry, Mikey, I read your whole thing, but people go follow Mike Harlow on Twitter and you can see all the very, very upset SJWs who don't like that he's saying stuff like this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so this is the thing. It is an attempt to destroy biology. And I thought about this a little bit more, Keri. Look, there are only two sexes. So let's start with that. There are two sexes, only two sexes. Sex is a biological classification based on the role that you play in sexual reproduction. So if you can conceive and carry a child, give birth to a child, and you're biologically female. If you can father a child, then you are biologically male. And when I father a child, I mean contribute sperm to fertilize an egg, right? Then you're biologically male. That's how biology works. Yeah, there are intersex people. I think it's about 0.2% of the population that's an anomaly where they have like maybe they're born with testes and ovaries or whatever. Like they're born with probably not testes and ovaries, but some male parts, some female parts. But that anomaly, by the way, I looked this up. It's about the same as polydactylism in the US. So having more than one, like having an extra digit on your hands or feet. So we don't say each hand doesn't have 5 fingers. That's not what, like hands have whatever number of fingers that they have, because there are some people with polydactylism. Like, no, that's recognized as an anomaly. That's a biological anomaly. And for the record, there are no intersex people who can actually impregnate themselves. So there's no intersex people who are both man and woman biologically, like male and female biologically. They don't exist. There are some intersex people who can't play any role in reproduction. And so they might be a little bit more difficult to categorize. But there are no who are both. That doesn't exist. But I got to thinking about this, Keri, and I've been swallowing this idea that gender is what you present as and sex is biological, right? And we've even talked about this, the difference between the word male and men or female and women. I'm stepping back, I'm changing my mind on that. Gender is a synonym for sex. That's what gender is. It's not how you present. It's a synonym for sex. And I looked it up. I looked up in this super old dictionary. I looked up in a dictionary from the 80s. Gender has other meanings, you know, gendered language, blah, blah, blah. But with respect to classification of humans, gender has been always a synonym for sex. It's a synonym for biological sex.
Yes, it was always that until recently. But
So they're trying to foist this new definition on us, right? And they're saying, well, gender is how you present, right? But I had this realization, maybe it's obvious to everyone, but it wasn't obvious to me. Hey, wait a minute. We have words for how you present. We have words that mean traits associated with particular sex.
masculine,
And feminine. That's what those words are.
Sorry, I stole your thunder. I saw where you were going. Yeah, masculine and feminine. Those words already exist.
Yes. So, and look, both sexes have both masculine and feminine traits, but usually males/men, which are synonyms for each other, have more masculine traits, and females/women have more feminine traits, right? In fact, if you look in old dictionaries, they use the phrase feminine gender. And what they mean is the gender that's more feminine. Gender being sex, the feminine sex is the females. Like that's what they mean, the feminine gender, the gender that has more feminine traits. But when Keri and I were growing up, and especially maybe this peaked through the 90s, or I'm not sure exactly when, but look, society didn't like people making assumptions that all men must be 100% masculine and all women must be 100% feminine. And that's a valid pushback because there are tomboys and there are feminine men, and we evolved as a society. We started to disintegrate those strict norms and say, well, no, you can be a guy, you can be a man, you can be a male. All those things mean the same thing, but you can be feminine. You can be Boy George. That's okay, right? You can be a female and woman and be more masculine. That's okay. And we finally evolved out of some of these, or started to evolve out of some of the strict norms associated with applying femininity to females always, 100%, and masculinity only to men. Back then, a man who felt very feminine, right? Someone who said, like, I really feel very feminine. What would they do? What would be one of the first things that they would do? They would go to therapy because gender dysphoria is a thing. And they would have a therapist work on, maybe there's some psychological issues why I don't feel connected to my own gender. Maybe that's an issue. Maybe not. There might be cases where it's not, but first it needs to be treated like something wrong, because there is something wrong. You're not connecting with your gender. There's something missing. There's something out of alignment, and it should be explored just like any other psychological condition would be explored.
Since we're now like moving beyond pronouns and talking about trans issue a little bit, I don't know if you saw, but there was this article I read and shared recently from this girl who was basically saying she's trying to create a movement for other people who thought they were trans, who have been pushed into medical transitioning and who now want to detransition. So this girl started taking hormone treatments, and see, this mostly happens to women. The whole rapid onset gender dysphoria, which happens later. So for boys, up until this became a trend and became like a fad, it was mostly gender dysphoria affected mostly young boys, and you saw it when they were very young. And through therapy, a lot of them, what's the word, desisted. Like people were successful in helping people to come to identify with their actual biological sex.
And
not
also
always.
it was due to other traumas or something that was making it difficult for them.
It was often due to other traumas. And so not always, there's a percentage that didn't, but for a lot of people, it's like, why not try to resolve whatever that trauma is? But now they don't try to resolve it at all. And so this girl in her essay or her opinion piece was sort of saying, they didn't talk to me about my anxiety, my eating disorder, whatever, all these other issues that somehow might have been connected. It was just like, oh, let's get you on testosterone. Let's get you on like this hormone treatment. And she gained a lot of weight. Her health declined. She just was having all these problems from it. And the saddest part of the article to me was where she admitted at one point that she didn't even want to be on it anymore and wanted to go back to being. So this bad thing is mostly happening to girls, and it's not happening when they're very young. It's happening at that same age when they hear about cutting and then they become cutters. That used to be cutting was a social contagion, anorexia, all that stuff. Oh, now I'm bulimic, all of that stuff. It's that same age. They're in their late teens, and then they suddenly decide, hey, I'm a boy. And what is the medical community now doing? Great. Take these hormones. Let's get started with the medical transition and pushing them into it. And that's sort of what her piece was about, and that there's nowhere to go once you think you've made a mistake. And the saddest part of it to me was that she was saying, I didn't want to be doing it anymore and I wanted to quit. But at this point, how can I back out? I'd insisted. I'd made everyone call me he. I'd insisted they call me this new name. I had pushed my way into the men's bathroom, in these different parts of my, I can't remember if it was at her school or some event or something. And so, she's basically pushing this on people. And she's like, then how can I go back? And that's what we've talked about, the whole sunken cost thing before, where people have invested so much in something. It's no longer about, well, do I want to do this? Is it healthy for me? It's just like, well, what do people think if I go back? And thankfully for her, she did. Her grandfather, tearfully convinced her, stop doing this to yourself. And, but now she's dealing with all these health complications afterwards.
Well, is she sterile?
Oh, I don't think so. She didn't go into that, but there's definitely a risk of that, as we know.
I think if you continue, you do end up sterile. Absolutely. I'm not sure how long it takes. I thought maybe I
don't know if that's true. I think it's just that it's a high risk.
Okay. And weren't there hundreds of people now in this group who wish that they hadn't transitioned, who want to go back?
Oh, there's lots of people, and the thing that happens to them is they get pushed out as heretics from this trans movement, from this activist movement, because again, obviously, it goes against the narrative. They don't want these people. You are the face of a movement until you decide, hey, I want to detransition and come to be okay with the body that I'm born into, and then it's like, oh, get out.
Right.
You're awful.
Right. Yeah. No, so, and that's the thing. It can't necessarily always be resolved psychologically, but that should be the first place you look, because there are only two sexes. And I guess if you're one of the few people who have an intersex issue, there might be some deeper therapy that needs to be done there. There might be other issues, but therapy it's the cheapest and least risky thing to do, which is, okay, can I go resolve the fact that I have gender dysphoria through therapy? And it's the right thing. And I'm not talking about, people compare it to therapy for, what do they call it when they
conversion therapy?
Thank you. Conversion therapy for gays. I'm not talking about going and being forced to not be gay and be told that how you feel is invalid. I'm not talking about being told that how you feel is invalid. I'm talking about someone who's willing to explore how you feel, why you feel that way, explore the reasons why you might feel that way. And if there's some underlying psychological trauma, resolve it. And if after all that's resolved, you still have gender dysphoria, then you might be one of the people who feels so strongly that you identify with the opposite gender, the opposite sex, that you do want to start presenting as the opposite sex. And
Well, and for this,
that's okay.
yeah, this girl, actually, I just looked it up and I sent you the link, so we should put this link in the description.
Mhm.
In her case, if you read her essay, it doesn't take long to figure out what part of her problem was.
What was it?
She's gay and she's growing up with homophobic parents, and she thought it would be so much easier if I were just a boy.
Oh, well, duh.
Yeah, and she talks about that and how she didn't want to be gay. And
well, this is the dirty secret that people don't talk about. When you stick that T in with the LBG community, what you get is a suppression of lesbian and gay tendencies, because you get people like this girl who should be told, you're just gay, honey. That's okay.
talk about conversion therapy. It's like, oh, you're gay. You're
not allowed to be gay. You must be a
Right.
heterosexual male trapped in a female's body.
Right. You're not allowed to be gay. Please take this medicine and, do some surgery to yourself. And I also want to make a point, and this, Mikey kind of did this in his post too. I know we have transgender viewers, and I think I have an unusual number of trans people in my life, probably because of what I did in my past life for my career and the communities I was in. And I have it's not like, for anyone who's confused about this, I have no problem with trans people. I have a problem with SJW trans activists. I have a problem with the ideology part of this whole like forcing this on people. And I have a real problem with parents, schools, and the medical community doing this huge shift in a span of like 5 years or 10 years. It really flipped like this, where it used to be about therapy, trying to help you with gender dysphoria, and now it's like, hey guys, there's no such thing as biological sex or gender, and you can pick whatever you want, and like introducing this confusion to children and then pushing children into medical procedures, surgical procedures. That's what I have a problem with. And that part of it to me is the activism part, it's the ideology part. I don't think it is a positive or healthy thing at all. And I think there's going to be this girl and the movement she's creating, and other people who are like want to detransition now. I think there's going to be a slew of medical malpractice lawsuits down the road.
I think so. Yeah, there has to be, because these people are being permanently harmed by the medical community right now.
And they're minors.
Yeah, and they're minors. Yeah. So no, I agree. Like, you mentioned Blair White. Like I refer to Blair White as she. Right. I don't have an issue with people who, for whatever reason, legitimately identify. But if you notice, people like that tend to go very strongly towards masculinity or femininity. Not
Yes.
always, but they tend to go very, like, Blair White is extremely feminine. Blair didn't like put on some lipstick and be like, now I'm a woman.
Blair's not like the GameStop guy who's like, it's ma'am.
Right. Right. Blair went extremely feminine. And frankly, Blair doesn't need to ask people to use the right pronoun.
No, you're just naturally going to call her
you would likely just say she. Right.
That's why this whole thing about bathrooms is made up too. It's like, nobody is going to say to Blair, get out of the women's restroom. Like, that she doesn't belong in the men's restroom. Like, it's clear. Like, it's not really an issue. They're trying to make it like seem like an issue because they want to destroy these concepts of biology. The activists want to destroy the concepts of biological sex and gender. And so they're pushing it into the schools and stuff, but it's like, you don't have, I don't know, like I worked with, I used to represent a trans comedian. No way would he go into the women's restroom, although he was a biological woman. He just didn't, like, he didn't fit in the women's restroom.
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah. And I think that, I guess a lot of them do go full on hyper masculine or hyper feminine, like Blair. But I guess I have known some trans people. This is prior to this whole movement. I knew someone who was an ambiguous gender. Remember Pat on Saturday Night Live?
Yeah, so they find Pat very triggering and problematic now.
Of course they do, right? I knew someone like Pat But that person, and they had I won't say their name, but they had a similarly ambiguous name. And that person didn't care what you called them. Like, they recognized that they were ambiguous. They didn't care. And you could say he or she, and they were just like, I don't care. They weren't about policing what you said. They were happy with the fact that they were kind of ambiguous. And being kind of ambiguous means people don't know. And evidence that people don't know is they use different kinds of pronouns. Different people use different pronouns because they don't know. So I guess they're not all hyper feminine or hyper masculine. But the thing that I do think is happening, we've mentioned this before, is what the other than I agree with you about the activism and the hurting children, all of that. The things that bother me are that which stems from something that's deeper that's bothering me, which is a destruction of both language and biology that have real meaning. They're trying to go after words with meaning. And when you go after those words, that's when you end up with these problems, right? That's when you end up with biologically male guys on female track teams because they can just declare that they're female. And, that's not, even Blair White should not be allowed on a female track team.
I totally agree about that as well. They're destroying women's sports.
But the other thing that I'm bothered by is it's reintroducing the gender stereotypes role. It's reintroducing this idea that, like, if you're a little bit feminine as a boy or you're a little bit masculine as a girl, well, you've got to be one or the other, and you should be shoved into a different gender. Largely, not always, but largely. I think it's largely reintroducing gender stereotypes. And the people who are kind of being ambiguous about it, if they want to be ambiguous about it, fine. But you can't police people's language if you're intentionally androgynous. And policing people's language is just a power play, because you're intentionally being confusing. That's fine. You can intentionally be confusing, but you can't simultaneously then dictate what people call you, because you're intentionally confusing. And that's just a power play. That's why the whole thing bothers me.
Yeah. Well, aside from this whole, you can just decide you're a woman and compete on women's sports teams now without taking hormones or doing any sex change or anything. The other thing that's happening, and I just saw a piece about this in Colette, I was looking for it, is this is now happening in prisons.
Yes.
And not in the UK, also in the US, it's happening. And it's this ideology.
Male rapists identify as female,
right.
Transferred to the female prison.
Yeah, here's let me share this piece real quick because I have this open. See if you can see this. This is a piece by April Haley and Colette from a few days ago. Male-bodied rapists are being imprisoned with women. Why do so few people care? Look at this guy.
He literally looks like he's just out for Halloween.
He looks like he's looking at who he wants to rape next, which is really what. So she goes on to talk about this guy, Karen White, I think is what he goes by, who basically, just said, "Hey, I'm a woman now," and didn't. And they're like, "Okay, let me put you in the women's prison," and then he went on to rape. Like, it's like
surprise.
Yeah, big surprise. I don't know. I just have a problem with that. And why is it suddenly that the rational and logical position is taboo?
Because logic and reason are tools of white male patriarchy and oppression, and they're products of Western civilization, and we should ignore them and shun them. Only the feels matter, Keri. Only the feels. So that's why. A quick nuance on the sports stuff. It doesn't matter if you've transitioned and taken hormones. If you went through puberty as a man, there's nothing you can do to erase your advantage.
Oh yeah, they want to pretend like bone density, like all these things don't matter, and they do. And even if you, I agree. I just think it's funny that now, it used to be that they would say, "Oh, but yeah, they're competing, but we make sure that they take hormones and they do this and they do that." And now that's out the window, because of course it's out the window, because these are the same people who said gender's a social construct. Don't worry, we're not coming for biological sex. And then the next thing they says, oh wait, biological sex is a social construct. Like, you know, they keep moving these goalposts.
Right. And they're big on language deconstruction. And I think language deconstruction is hard to police because people don't always notice it. And a lot of times people hold concepts very loosely in their head. So people are like, gender, that kind of means sex, right? And then a social justice warrior comes along and says, no, gender is how someone prevents technically. And you think about, if you haven't thought about it too much, you're like, okay, I guess that's plausible. I don't know, but that's not true. That's not what gender means. Gender doesn't mean that. We have words for that. Those are masculine and feminine. That's what those words are.
They get you with your empathy.
Yeah, and I'm changing my position only on my stance on the word gender. Everything else is basically the same. I still call Blair White she, but I do think that even Blair White probably should have gone to therapy. Maybe she did. I don't know. But she probably, when she first was feeling like that, she probably should have gone to therapy and said, like, hey, therapist, I'm feeling like a female. We should have a conversation. And maybe she did. And maybe they sorted stuff out. And at the end, it was like, yep, that's okay. There's no underlying trauma. We've resolved whatever we can resolve. And if it makes you happier to present as a woman, present as a woman. It's not anyone else's business, really. But also, Blair, I don't think people don't need to be told what to call her. And she doesn't, and I don't think she would get upset if you mistakenly called her the wrong pronoun.
No, and she's even sat, remember that, oh gosh, that painful Candace Owens and Blair White arguing on Dave.
Although Candace wasn't mistakenly calling her the wrong pronoun.
No, Candace was purposefully calling her he, and it was so rude. Anyway, I that video. Okay.
Well, we're at risk of being a long, grueling, hard to watch Dave Rubin video. So let's end the show now. Just that one. I like Dave Rubin generally. That was a horrible video to watch.
Don't play their game. Don't say your pronouns. Don't put your pronouns in your profile. All these Democratic candidates it's so just shilling, just naked shilling. It's so gross. The minute I see pronouns in a profile, I'm like, oh, got it. I know what your ideology is, or I know a large part of your ideology. I know what's infected you.
Yeah. Or you can do what some people have suggested, and you just come up with, like, I identify as His Majesty.
Yeah. My pronouns are His Majesty.
My pronouns are God. All right. Thanks for watching, everyone. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, do all that stuff that Keri
Tomorrow, we are going to do live Covfefe Fridays, which we've been doing, but we're doing a different time. We're going to do earlier. We're going to do 8 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Central, and 11 a.m. Eastern. And we're going to have a special guest here in Texas with me.
Yes, there will be 2 Keris on Keri's camera.
2 people. I'm so excited. Yeah, this will be fun.
Yes. All right. Thanks, everyone. Oh, as a reminder, today's deprogrammed, even though this will probably be out after, I'm not sure. But today's deprogrammed is not live. It's a pre-recorded episode with Helen Pluckrose. So go check it out. And we had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun making it. So with that, have a good day.